Hello, today is Monday, July 16th. The reading for today comes from Luke chapter 14, and the verse that I picked is one of the more difficult sayings that we run across in Jesus' teaching. The verse says this: "You cannot be my disciple unless you love me more than you love your father or mother, your wife or your children, and your brothers and sisters. You cannot come with me unless you love me more than you love your own life." Now, there's a perspective theologically from which we can say God gets to say this kind of thing. And since we are people who believe, since Christians are people who believe that God is fully present in Jesus, then he gets to say this kind of thing. But it really, in another way, runs up against some, or maybe a bit, of what the Bible teaches in terms of family relationships and how we are to care for people and what the values of our life should be. It challenges us, though, in a very direct way as to what is most valuable in our life. Is it God, or is it the people that we have around us? You may recall the story, if you know the Old Testament, in Genesis 22, that tremendously troubling story where Abraham believes God has asked him to sacrifice his promised son Isaac. Now, I want to just mention two ways quickly in which this teaching from Jesus sort of makes sense to me. And then I would just encourage myself as well as you to spend some time reflecting on this. The first way is when we think about codependence and how that works in people's lives. You know, people talk about it as loving someone so much that they just want to have this intertwined relationship and the absolute constant connection that often looks like control. But one of the things we know from research and from observation is that codependent relationships damage both the giver of the love and the receiver of the love. Their lives are limited. They cannot move to fullness, and the limitations are such that it becomes a huge weight on the life of both giver and receiver. So there's one sense in which loving God more than loving our family members makes a kind of sense, because that leads us to a love that is more free, more liberating, more for the well-being of the other person than just for ourselves. The other way that this makes sense to me is the whole idea is that of Jesus loving, that Jesus knows more than I do about my life and my loved one's life, and that Jesus loves them more than I do. And so therefore, for me to love them above what I love, in what I love Christ, would cause me to limit their choices in their response to Christ, and perhaps even my own, when Jesus tells me what to do out of love for my family members. Now, I just hit these really quick, but they have been powerful incentives for me to think about what it means to love God and also love the people that God has given my life, in me and my life, and family and others. And perhaps there's something to reflect here, and not let our own sense of love of God be limited so that it's less than our love for our family or for our loved ones. Jesus challenges us here as to what the ultimate values in our life are. And perhaps it takes a bit of reflection and response for us to really know what he's teaching us here. I hope the rest of your week goes really well, and you don't run into this kind of difficult question too many times this week.